Nobody saw it coming. It happened. What Horst is terrific at is hooks in the water. No offer is too outrageous. Time is precious, so every year and season, when you talk about like, how do you maximize like this Giannis time? That's a big consideration. These are all like very big years. So we're not going to mail in for a season.
Do you have an all-time favorite Giannis story?
I think the best Giannis story ever.
Hey guys, welcome back to Milwaukee Uncut. And if you're a Bucks fan, you are going to love today's episode with the president, Peter Feigin. He had so many amazing Bucks stories. A really good Giannis one that I have never heard before. Stories from the finals run, from him coming to Milwaukee in 2014 and taking over as president and everything they did, as well as the very busy offseason. We got to go behind the scenes on that, which was cool to hear from him and his perspective. Before diving in, just want to thank our partners, Nicolay Law, the Midwest law firm, Three Sheeps, the Beer Wisconsin Drinks, and Drink Wisconsin Beverage Company. Let's dive in with Bucks president Peter Feigin. Got a native New Yorker. His mother, Barbara, fled Nazi Germany at the age of 2. He's banned from Amazon by his wife after making several egregious purchases. He ran all of marketing for Madison Square Garden in his 20s. He once subbed in for Pat Connaughton at birthing class and played the husband to Pat's wife, Ryan. He's coming off a win against the powerhouse Washington Wizards last night. He's the Milwaukee Bucks NBA champion president, Peter Feigin.
I don't think we go any further.
Do we need to? What a life story.
It's the best resume I think I've ever had. I think I'm complete.
There's a lot going on there.
Good balance.
Very good balance.
Yeah, good balance. But I do like the non-access to money, which is you had to have gotten from a Joe Stanton, a Pat Connaughton, a Giannis and Thanasis are aware that I'm irresponsible and have been cut off.
Oh, on Amazon. That was a Joe Stanton thing.
But does Joe tell you I use him as my Amazon patsy?
He would do that.
Yeah. So like I have purchased a few costumes, which is kind of one of my
on the Stantons.
Yes.
Funnel the money under the table a little bit.
Just he's good with layaway plans and allows me to pay him off over time for our 1995 costumes.
That's the Bucks version of Ballmer and Kawhi right now. Peter Feigin putting money under the table to Joe Stanton to get some Amazon costume purchases. That's what we're going with.
I'm not using the Ballmer analogy, but I think it's
Okay, so you came here in 2014. You and the new ownership group essentially. I don't think I did a little research last night just because it's almost hard to look back and see everything that's happened in the last 10 years. So, team was 15-67, practicing at the Cousins Center. The year before you got here, games were started by Caron Butler, Ramon Sessions. I used to like that guy.
Ramon Sessions,
Luke Riddenhauer, John Henson, O.J. Mayo, Juice. He carried over to you guys for a little while.
He was the Michael Jordan of USC at one point.
Yes, he was. He was coached by Larry Drew. Hadn't made it out of the first round for 13 straight seasons at that point. Team almost moved. Obviously, you guys had to save it. Can you? How did it all happen? You guys coming in essentially, and what were your first impressions of Milwaukee?
Yeah, I think. Well, number one, we had this big opportunity. Our ownership group, purchased from Senator Cole. And, I think, to be fair, it was probably, a very distressed asset, of which NBA teams should not be. Here's a very strong league, global presence, really building fandom. I'd love to say we had this incredible, foresight and vision on kind of what this would turn into. But I think what the difference was that our owners kind of put down on paper that, we will be a gold standard company. We will be a competitive basketball team. We will put the resources against it. We will create process and return and functionality and kind of building the foundation. So we treated it as like a startup. We really kind of came in and said, listen, here's the opportunity to kind of do it. And of course we had this kind of semi-roadmap where we had to build a new arena, had to get the public buy-in, for public-private money to build a new arena. we were able to acquire 30 acres to kind of expand that vision from an arena to a district. And during this time period, you kind of had this emerging global superstar that turned into a generational superstar who was kind of getting better and better every year. So all these things happen, kind of knock on wood, you plan to be lucky, but you build a new arena, you have a global superstar, you win an NBA championship, you've got the emergence of kind of an awakening, in a city that's just dying for it. And, we've been very lucky and worked hard to just kind of keep the momentum going.
And how did you get the job? Did you know Mark Lazary or Wes Edens, or how did you?
Oh, because I'm an
come into the
identical
picture?
twin. Oh, yeah. My brother is the head of school of a private school in New York that Mark's and Wes's kids went to. He was having a parent conference with the Lazarys at the time. And Mark Lazary mentioned that he started to look for teams to buy. And my brother said, hey, listen, my brother's not that smart, but he certainly knows the P&L of a sports team. He's not your hedge fund actuaries. It might be good if he joined you as you start evaluating some teams. And that started like a 5-7 year relationship prior to coming to Milwaukee.
Okay.
To just do due diligence and kind of work on his deal team to look at teams. And one Thursday night, Mark called me and said, could you get to Milwaukee to go talk to Senator Cole? And these meetings had happened before, so I wasn't kind of surprised. And maybe 2 hours after the meeting, I called him back. I said, you're not going to believe this. Like, this guy, if you keep this team in Milwaukee, he'll sell you the team, and he's not going to go to auction. And by the way, he'll contribute to building like an arena. Of course, they thought I was, kind of not understanding the truth, or but as it played out, that's really what happened. And then I kind of consulted to build a business plan, to recruit some people to run the business as the deal was closing in the spring and as we were getting operational, kind of later in the summer. I would never have moved from New York because my dad had been sick for a while, and I told them, like, love to work with you, but not gonna move. My dad passed away in June. And Wes and Mark came to the service and kind of said, hey, give us a call. And, probably 48 hours later, we were talking about kind of the dream of a lifetime of an NBA team presidency.
Yeah. Had you been to Milwaukee at all before that process started, or?
Not once. And I had lived a little bit in Gurnee when I worked at Six Flags.
That's right.
For a while. Mm-hmm. So I had been in Gurnee.
You never made it up 40 minutes?
Never made it to Milwaukee.
Any first impressions of the city at the time?
I came here on I want to say on an October freezing day. Freezing. Gloomy. I was staying in a smoke infested room in the Hilton. Our offices were above the Milwaukee Theater, and
yeah, they were. Yeah.
And my wife was with me, and it was a real big life decision to kind of say, how are we going to navigate this? Because you got to understand, when I took the job, if we didn't build an arena, it wasn't a long-term job. So I had to commit, to kind of be like, I'm going to try to make this happen in the next year or so. So
what year, timeline wise? Because you took the job in 2014.
Yeah,
when
so this was the fall of 2014.
Oh, so happened sudden.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This was right away, and I mean, right away we start kind of positioning and packaging up like what an arena would look like, and looking for locations, and kind of. I mean, there's no rest. Probably for 5 years, it was a kind of warp speed to kind of build everything and make everything happen. But the first impression was tough. I was at the Miller Pub by myself having dinner and saying, what am I doing?
Right at the bottom of the Hilton.
Yep.
Oh, and then what made you take the job?
So I'm a rabid NBA fan. I ran marketing and partnerships for the New York Knicks and Madison Square Garden. And I had always kind of dreamed of, not that it could ever happen, because these jobs are so rare. I mean,
there's 30 of them in the country.
There's 30 of them, and maybe half of them go to family members, if you think about the way they're done. So this was like the promised land. This was literally click your heels kind of dreamlike stuff, and it just doesn't happen. So I knew this was the opportunity of a lifetime.
I remember when you all came in, and I think we were as fans kind of skeptical. Like in the Midwest, things move slower. You want to build relationships. Just like who are these New Yorkers coming in with all this money that they're going to put in and turn these things around? And then I remember, I think it might have been Wes and Lazary. They might have had an event. It might have been at the Brat House or some bar downtown, and I think they were like, our goal is to win a championship here in 5 years. And I believe it took you guys 7. But did you guys really believe that vision that you would get that done?
So I kind of truly believe, like, unless you have goals and objectives, unless you have a roadmap, like you'll never get there. And kind of what I loved about, kind of working for Mark and now really Wes. Wes is like a delusional, creative, optimistic, so how do you think about it? So if you can't envision like what the building blocks are and to like win a championship, like it's not going to happen. And, one of the things we did was basically say, we'll be the gold standard. Like we will be the gold standard for facilities. We'll be the gold standard for personnel. We will be the gold standard for, competitive, basketball and to win a championship. So I do think as hokey and crazy as it sounds, like unless you say you're going to do it and really act like behind that, like it'll never happen.
Mm-hmm. How was creating the Fiserv Forum? What were the most maybe difficult or surprising things about that?
I think like the most challenging thing, kind of what you said, like really building trust and equity, and like, kind of, I'd say your average Wisconsinite doesn't believe in anything until it's actually built, happened, and operating. So you can't really, you have to really throughout the process say what you're going to do and do it. And if you don't, you're going to lose a lot of trust and equity in the community.
It seemed like you all really intentionally pushed yourselves right into the community right away, showing up to a ton of events, just even smaller scale events, just getting out there, getting involved. I think you did a really good job. I know Alex did a really good job of that, and won people over in that regard.
I think one of the things you realize in a small market specifically is a pro team can affect change, like whether it's on the court or off the court, and like your power to really kind of embrace fans is so direct. Other cities, you might get lost in the noise. There are 15 other competitive things. Like if you can build a strong brand, if you can stand for things, if you can become a piece of the fabric of the community, it is like beyond valuable. And we knew we had to build equity off the court.
Mm-hmm. Did you, any early stories of Giannis, any first interactions with him? Did you know he was going to be great when you first saw him?
No. I mean, Giannis and I fight now, laugh, whatever, however you want to call it, about, he's like, I built this arena, you owe me, give me your check. And I look at him and say, are you kidding? Like, did you see yourself when you got here? Like, you were like a skinny twig. I molded you into this, incredible.
He was averaging 6 points a game when you got here.
Right. You should remind him of that when I say that. It's like I really mentored him to become a generational global superstar. And I remind him of that all the time when he gets a little too, high for his bridges. So he really kind of has, I normalize him. But those are our fights to get it. But I think like Giannis is like, you can't. I used to say like Giannis is a Disney movie till he became a Disney movie, and then that's how real it is. This is a humble, loving, funny, smart guy who really kind of just is incredible. Mm-hmm. And for our city and for our team and everything, like everything you read and hear is absolutely true.
Yeah. I interacted with him extremely briefly when he's come in here a couple times with Thanasis, but just seeing Thanasis in here, like guy's always got a smile on his face, super polite, just a good human being.
Right. I always remind Giannis that he used to be a human, when he gets out of like, but that's the truth. I mean, that's the difference is like they are good humans.
Absolutely. I mean, what was it like growing up in New York? What was your upbringing like? How did you end up running all of marketing for Madison Square Garden in your 20s? That seems like a pretty big job.
Well, I've got a marketing promotion and sales job. I'd kind of gone quickly through some of the ranks at Six Flags Theme Parks, which was a Time Warner company at the time. I
Is that
happened
your
to
first job out of college?
my first job. I happened to be down in Atlanta dealing with Coca-Cola. Like if you're familiar with Six Flags, I was kind of one of the quarterbacks of buy one get one free on Coke cans, which was my resume builder as a young buck. And I was meeting with the head of marketing, and he happened to say, like, hey, Six Flags is going to get sold. You should think about calling Dave Checketts at the time, who was running Madison Square Garden. I was like, why would I call Dave Checketts? Oh, they're doing a whole reorg. And it was the most surreal thing, and here's the Milwaukee connection again, is I end up calling Ernie Grunfeld, who's the president of the New York Knicks at the time, who had just come from Milwaukee. And he tells me to come in Monday and sit down for an interview for their head of partnerships job in marketing. And 5 days later, I'm working for the New York Knicks, my hometown team, and kind of starting a career in professional sports entertainment in Madison Square Garden. And I think just had unbelievable opportunities to kind of grow from there.
What was your favorite memory in that job?
Well, we made it to the finals in '99, which was a strike-shortened season. And
you guys were like the 8th seed that year too, right?
Which was kind of like surreal. You had, it was, that was like a really fun time. And then kind of like what people don't understand is, the Knicks had been sold out for 380 games or something. And this was like an inflection point as we got into the early 2000s of actually having to market and sell and retail like the team. So as crazy as it sounds, like marketing and selling, kind of on the ticketing business was really fun on the side. And it's always fun to be in a huge city you grew up in, like representing like the team you loved, like growing. It was a really fun time.
Those would have been the Oakley, Starks, Ewing.
A little after that.
Okay.
Yeah, a little Marcus Camby, Latrell Sprewell.
Spree.
You got to think. Yeah.
You run into Spree at all? That joke.
He actually lived at the Park Lafayette, like where
Yes.
I was I'd see him on the community deck on the third floor, like barbecuing. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then you went to Marquee Jets and NetJets.
Yep. Yeah, that was kind of a fun pivot and kind of experience going into private aviation. We were basically a sales and marketing company repositioning NetJets, which was a Berkshire Hathaway preeminent fractional airline. And, after almost a decade of growth, we sold ourselves to NetJets, and then I worked at NetJets and kind of managed the North American business for a while. And that was fun too, in a whole different way. I always loved, our client base was the who's who, the high net worth, the corporate C-level executives of the world.
Yeah.
To get in, and how do you manage it? And we also happened to be, kind of in fleet size and employees, probably the 6th largest airline in the world. So the complexities and operations of running a highly regulated passenger pilot driven industry was really interesting and different.
Yeah. Any crazy story from that era stick out to you?
Yeah, I think they're always crazy stories. The private aviation is kind of one of it's the drug nobody ever wants to give up. So it's the most passionate. Once you fly privately, you really don't want to go back to commercial to get it. So I think we had a lot of people, we had people that would use it to fly to the 7-Eleven, down for 20 minutes. And we had other people who thought it was good for their significant others and their other others, so a lot of funny stories.
Managing
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That would have been, getting stuck in the middle of some of that could have been a little dicey.
Yeah, but it was nice to be kind of though a Berkshire company, kind of beyond reproach. So it was such a great company. Still is.
I can imagine. Let's get to the Bucks off season. Can we chat about that?
Yeah.
Great. I was listening back to your episode of Thanalysis when you were in here, which was about a month before the whole Dame Miles Turner happened, and I think your quote was, All of social media is like, what the hell are the Bucks going to do? I'm like, we're having fun. Salary constrictions, backs against the wall. Horst is going to circle the wagons and solve the problem. Then a month later, Dame gets waived, $100 million on the books. Miles Turner comes on, and Windhorst had the quote, mortgaging your mortgage to buy a sports car. If you get the girl, maybe it's worth it. That was a wild saga that no one saw coming.
Yeah, well, I think you could appreciate more than anything. I mean, so much fun about that is nobody saw it coming. It happened, and kind of was like one of those inflection points of the history of the Bucks. Like I think people saw it for a flash last night of who Miles Turner is. And again, everybody, I always laugh because people ask like, oh, tell me about your priorities in the offseason. Oh, like we're pretty simple. Like, let's keep Giannis, let's keep Giannis, let's keep Giannis. As 3 top priorities. And even when he's under contract, like we're always like, listen, as long as he's on the court and the centerpiece, like we've been extremely successful and think we can build the pieces around for a championship team. And kind of to John Horst's credit, like that's directionally what we did. And our owners were kind of like, we didn't think the owners were gonna bite. And they were excited about the prospect of bringing in Miles and kind of changing. And it's not Miles. I mean, if you look at this team, we are a completely different, younger, faster shooting like team overnight.
Mm-hmm. How does that all come together and happen inside? Is Horst just constantly working the phones and then there's some offer and he runs it up to ownership and they give a yes or no to it?
So I would say what Horst is terrific at is
no one saw that
is
coming.
hooks in the water. So he is a constant communicator. He is constantly looking at opportunities and he's constantly in communication with other GMs. Just not 2 or 3, which some GMs do. Just not like for, just kind of, and no offer is too outrageous or too exploratory. And I think this was something that, again, like kind of permeated, unbeknownst to the world, like over like a few weeks. Like we thought directionally the Pacers might not, kind of spend the money with Halliburton injured and kind of what they've done traditionally. It might become this opportunity where Miles will want to move and make, kind of more money. And at the same time, like how would we actually position ourselves to get that? And, to the organization's credit, like, it was a huge pivot to say like, hey, we've had the Dame and Giannis chapter that didn't get us to where we needed to go. Let's pivot like during this time period to get there.
In the 20 million, 23 on the books for the next 5 years, they're like, we can work with that. We keep Giannis, we get Miles. Not a huge concern.
Not a huge concern. I think like with everything that kind of dissipates over the time, it turns out to be less of a charge than the 20
As
million
the cap
to
goes
right
up over
because
time.
to get that done. But I think for us, like it was directionally, how do we become much younger? How do we become more competitive? And I think our world changed when Dame got injured, at the end of the season. So time is precious, so every year and season, when you talk about like, how do you maximize like this Giannis time? That's a big consideration. These are all like very big years. So we're not going to mail in for a season. I think that's the decision like the owners made. Like, let's figure out to solve this, stay very competitive and have an opportunity. And then if we can continue to evolve throughout the season, that's where we want to be.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have it's a really interesting team, as you were alluding to. Faster, it looks different. Like the East is relatively open this year. Did that factor into it?
Without a question, like kind of what the opportunity cost was? Absolutely. These are the moments. How to become, highly competitive in the East? How can we refine ourselves and kind of position ourselves for more flexibility? Getting under the apron is another big deal. Like, not many people talk about and kind of
I have a hard time wrapping my head around all of that.
Yes. We have, for us, the apron's just not punitive financially. It's your flexibility and what you're able to actually trade and to move and mid-level exceptions. So for us, we wanted to enter into this chapter with a lot more flexibility, the ability to pivot and change like during trade deadlines, which, in the past 2 years, we haven't been able to do.
Mm-hmm. Any Miles Turner was obviously the headline acquisition. You made a number of other moves. Anything you're particularly excited about, or you think people might be surprised by over the course of the season?
Yeah, I would probably put a lot of equity behind Cole Anthony as like a true performing point guard.
Orlando acquisition.
Yeah, who's tough. And
that was a good under the radar find.
Yep. And I think like not a secret, but AJ Green is going to continue to blossom.
3-4 more years on that deal.
To get it done. So, and I think like, you've put Bobby in a position, Bobby Portis, to overperform, like on the second team. So, like one of our strengths are going to be, we finally have like a strong second unit, which is how you win games, like in the NBA.
Mm-hmm. How tough is it from someone in your position? I know you have really good relationships with a lot of the players, just like Pat and Dame, Chris, I'm sure, just to see them go.
Crushing. I would say I've never experienced, nor my wife, because we both kind of like really vest ourselves, whether we're in their families and babysitting and kind of with their
going to birthing class,
but how to lose people that are really part of your lives. And this is a weird world, like we kind of all experience this together. This is like a really challenging separation, time commitment, travel, and pressure packed, environment. So to kind of the people you experience with is so big. So, in one season, you took away kind of like probably some of the strongest character people I've ever met in Brooke Lopez, Pat Connaughton, Damian Lillard. You just don't replace them because they're also, kind of like they're also adults. They've experienced it. They've like in a relationship, they're adding as much to you as you hope to add to them. So it was the biggest changing personal and professional summer of my life.
Yeah. And it's got to be a little weird because like, you break up with someone in a relationship, you can kind of see it's going down, but a lot of these moves are just probably so sudden in a way.
And it's a little weird, as the GM, it's really John's job to, like, don't name the goats, to, kind of, you're going to trade, you're going to do it. And our relationship has been so incredible because I maybe am a little more vested, kind of in the relationship. And that's whether like helping them vet business opportunities, like being involved in their families, like how do you get involved? So that balance, which I wouldn't change for anything, makes it tough as well.
Going to some of the guys, do you have an all-time favorite Giannis story?
I mean, I think the best Giannis story ever is when he was moving out of his apartment in St. Francis and was just about to execute a yard sale, for some of his stuff. And kind of we got wind of it and had to like, immediately stop, this on social media.
I didn't know this.
Oh, it's like the greatest story ever. And it like actually happened.
Please tell me.
I mean,
That's
he
amazing.
One Saturday afternoon was like, moving himself as like a 20-something-year-old.
What year is this?
I want to say this had to be 17, 18.
17. So he's a big deal at this point in time.
There's no question. Everybody knows him. He's an
all-star at this point.
He's in Milwaukee, or just before all-star.
Just before,
right?
Okay. This isn't 2014 Giannis.
Yeah, and he is like literally laying out plans in his apartment complex to go out in the front parking lot and sell the stuff he doesn't want to move to his new apartment.
Just try and make a couple $100 at the
That's
garage
right.
sale.
We had to convince him, like, we'll buy it. Don't sell it. Like, don't do this. But funny, crazy.
That's amazing. Any good Giannis / Thanasis stories aside from the yard sale that stick out to you?
I'm trying to think what's a good. I think their best stories. First of all, it's kind of awesome to be in Greece with them, like to be around them during the Olympics.
What's that like?
It's just like they are so passionate. Everybody kind of, all the basketball people are like, oh my God, how do you what happens to you when they play Euro, when they play Olympics, when they play, because in a perfect world, like you don't want to risk injury, you don't want to do, but from day one, Giannis has always said like, I need to play internationally. That's like one of my prerequisites to get it. And when you go see him play, when you go watch a practice, when you go watch him walk around like Athens or like around Paris, you get it like right away. It's like magical. It's like I can tell like why it's so special for him and that he gets to play with his brothers. It's like one of the real awesome parts of the experience, which really was great during the Olympics. I didn't go to many Euro games, but the watching him in the Olympics was really fun.
Yeah, that's so cool. Did you guys end up buying the garage sale items from him?
I don't think so. I'm sure he like thinks we owe him money, or he'll invoice us. Yeah.
You deal with a lot at the Fiserv. What is the most bizarre incident or complaint that you have ever received?
The most bizarre, the complaint would be great, and I feel terrible because we have a complaint book where we keep phone calls like too, which are just incredible. I'll tell you a great story. I won't use names, but it was kind of like one of these interactions that was just only in Milwaukee. So we had a CEO of a company of like one of the larger companies in Milwaukee send me a 2-page letter on his dissatisfaction with our food and what was then like a club in the back of the Bradley Center to get, I guess it was a fiduciary club. And I was crushed. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm going to see this guy. I'm going to talk to this guy because I'm that guy. I'm the customer service guy. I'm going to go. So I go up to this guy and I'm like, hey, I want to talk to you about this. Not our objective. Like we want to be better at this. We want to do anything. I think he slapped me on the cheek. I think he said, okay. He didn't really want to confront me to do anything. And then as he walks away, he reaches into his pocket and takes a hot dog that he'd been saving in his pocket and starts eating the hot dog. And I just use it as a great example of like, I got over his complaints after he was eating pocket hot dogs.
Yeah. Kind of puts Pat Murphy's pocket pancakes to shit. The pocket hot dog.
What? How good a guy is he? He was at
Pat
the game
Murphy?
last night.
I saw that.
Yeah. What a normal, great
He seems
guy.
like a perfect fit for the team. And
Yeah,
for
I think
Milwaukee,
for the city, for Milwaukee, for everything.
Because we were pretty hurt when Craig Counsell went to the. Any other team, we'd be rooting for him, but we were hurt and kind of still are by the Cubs thing. But Pat Murphy
is solid.
What a great fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question from Sean Cullen.
Sean Cullen.
JP Cullen.
Yeah, no, very familiar with Sean.
Yeah, he said, can you talk about the new elite executive area I built with my own hands? Well, P.S. I won the 2004 Sun Bowl with Oregon.
Well, funny. Sean had to have done it with his own hands remotely because I don't remember him on property too often to get it in. I do remember him at the press conference. He did make an appearance at the press conference.
So he came in for the ribbon cutting.
So it was
Interesting.
great. I think Jeff, one of his project managers, probably could take like more credit. But I will give Cullen, who we use for so many projects and was integral in building our practice facility, our arena, and everything. We've kind of evolved and refined like since. And I think as people get to see this and as we, they have helped us reimagine like what a premium experience can be like, in a professional arena, which like we wanted to have fun with and redefine. And I think they again, Sean remotely, very, very remotely, probably somewhere, north of Madison, I would say was his involvement of doing it. But because he holds the Cullen name, we'll give him some credit.
Up in Mequon. I think he hides out up there. I mean, I'm sure he's going back and forth to Madison. And
we will let him maybe get some finger sandwiches there, like in the future, like a walkthrough.
An honorary pocket hot dog.
We would not give him a membership, right?
Any? Do you want to talk about that area in more detail at all? It seems like.
Well, I think it's kind of this we built an area for about 85 people, which were really focused on.
So is there a limit of the tickets you can sell to that for the series?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for really kind of the first few rows of creating an experience that doesn't exist. And part of that is valet parking, behind the scenes access, kind of a all-inclusive experience, and kind of curated food, as if a restaurant versus, a concessionaire in a building. And I think also in the environment that people couldn't imagine actually exists, like in a professional arena. And that was really the premise of how do we elevate, that experience. And again, like, and charge, significant money. It is $25,000 a person, like above their ticket price, which is kind of unheard of in, I think, small market.
How is sales going for it?
Oh, we're almost sold out. So I think we're
good.
Yeah, I think very good. So we stopped it. I mean, just, operational, we stopped it at about 75 just to operate it, properly. And I think the word of mouth just from last night was kind of interesting, like was 10 to 20 people, like, calling up right away. All of a sudden they weren't aware of it. They were like, wait.
All of a sudden, after the 23 sales calls they got over the summer. Yeah.
Wait.
Just a business question. How did you know that the demand would be there? Or do you guess a little bit?
No, it's a great question. So like, this is a very price
and is
sensitive.
It open for concerts too and stuff like that?
So not immediately, but the other part of the economics of this is like, how do we use this for special events? How do we rent it out? How can we use it for concerts? So there's this market of again, it's such a small percentage of the general market, but how do you really cater to premium in a way? And on the business side, it's got a high level of return, on how you do that, because you're providing access, you're providing exclusivity, you're providing, kind of a surprise and delight experience that people just will pay for to get. So for us, we thought with 150 front row seats and kind of like mirrored the next three rows, and people kind of knowing, on their qualitative surveys, like they would love to solve parking. They would love to be in a less crowded BMO club. They would love to be able to socialize. And then before we built this, we actually went out and kind of surveyed to make sure we had the audience, and that was like very deliberate. Would you buy if we created to kind of do this? And, kind of the conversion rate for us was 2 to 1. So once we got double the population that said, I'd be very interested, that was the guesswork, was the conversion rate. Like if we got 200 people that said, I'm in, we thought we could convert 100 of them.
Before I let you go, what's your favorite story from the finals run?
Well, my favorite story is, again, it's not I did the finals run with my twin brother, my nephew, and my son. Every game, every road game. And we did it like old school with 2 attached hotel rooms with the double beds, like with the 4 of us. We played 107-degree golf, like in Phoenix, together. We kind of, so that experience became like, we'll never forget that, for what was a 3-4 week run from Atlanta to Phoenix. And that was like really special, but really like the moment that you realize like we won, and probably for the first time in my life, I just couldn't breathe, because it's like you can't even imagine, like it's all come together. And I was with my wife and my 2 children, and I think like none of us talked, and it was just like elation like you hadn't felt, because there's a lot of energy and work and emotion, and like it's so hard, like it just doesn't happen. And that it happened, I was just kind of caught up in the moment, and that was great. And I'll give you, just because you asked for one, I'll give you 3. So the last one was like, if you ever have the opportunity to be in a parade, like
do it.
Do it in a championship parade. So that was like the greatest part. Now, the best thing is I had my identical twin brother. So he went on one side of the bus and I went on the other side of the bus. So people were cheering for, but that was also kind of just surreal. Like it's not real. It's so much fun. That it's not real. And that's what makes this job kind of insane is, in the most challenging moments, maybe that's 5% of it, but 95% of it is kind of delusionally fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we didn't need to move past the introduction. I'm glad we did. You've got an incredible story, and thank you so much for all you do for the city and for coming down here today.
Well, thank you. I love your show and I love what you guys do.